A hearing between city and school leaders on the issues facing education. Team coverage of the concerns addressed after Fox 45 News Project Baltimore's bombshell report. A brutal fight outside Mondawmin Mall.
They got the little boy on the ground over there and just stomped him. For what reason?
This just hours after a social media post threatens more chaos tomorrow night at the same location. A Good Samaritan shares why she risked her safety to break up the fight. It's draft night for the NFL. We're keeping a close eye on the Ravens' picks and dig into quarterback Lamar Jackson's record-setting extension.
Much needed wet weather ahead for this weekend with rain and storms moving in tomorrow. I'm breaking down when we could see the heaviest downpours.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Baltimore City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises appears before a City Council committee tonight to answer questions about troubling math scores. The hearing in response to a Project Baltimore report showing 23 city schools where 0 students among those tested are proficient in math.
We got to get this right. We just need to get in the room and make sure our kids are proficient in math. And the only way we're going to do it is at least have these hearings. But during the nearly 2-hour council meeting, members didn't spend much time talking about math scores.
That's right. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps has the questions we still have following tonight's hearing.
Our live team coverage begins with Mackenzie Frost. So, Mackenzie, what did the council talk about?
Well, there was a lot of talk about summer programming activities, even some questions about juvenile violence and schools overall. But when it comes to who's responsible for allowing these students to continue to struggle in the classroom, these city council members didn't really demand answers. Inside City Hall,
Good afternoon.
City School CEO Sonia Santelises in the hot seat and quick to set the theme of her defense.
That the state of Maryland, not just Baltimore City, has math challenges.
Most of the evening spent on issues unrelated to the plummeting math scores.
As we head into this summer, where I feel a lot of anxiety and concern about particularly safety.
But a few math questions peppered into the equation.
I'm going to switch back to math now. How is this connected to your high dosage of tutoring in schools?
Math is still a complicated subject.
What is the process of holding someone back a grade and or 2 grades because they're just not getting to that level in order to progress?
One of the questions for me is not necessarily about holding them back. What does work, right, is when you have a different learning plan and extended time.
After the hearing, Santelises again painting Baltimore City as part of a bigger problem when we questioned her about the poor performing schools.
We are within the state of Maryland that had the lowest performance for 4th graders on NAEP.
Do you think that the parents of these kids in these 23 schools care that other students are failing when their students are the ones that are struggling to succeed? What do you say to families who are dealing with this, and especially when you say that you knew this was going to happen?
Well, we knew, Mackenzie, that the math was a challenging area. One of the things that we've said to parents is we have doubled down on tutoring, on after-school opportunities.
Do you take any accountability for these scores?
Absolutely.
As for the Councilman Robert Stokes, chair of this committee and the one who called for the hearing.
Well, it was a good start. I mean, actually coming before the council, but the community also to find out what the school system doing to address the math scores in the city.
Do you think they're doing enough?
No, it's a lot of work.
Are you satisfied in the CEO's ability to do this job and to steer the school system moving forward, given all of the challenges that lie ahead?
There's a lot of challenges. It's a lot on her plate.
She's not new to this, though.
The hard questions will be asked, but I want to see some data.
We didn't really hear a lot of hard questions tonight.
I talked about the hiring of tutors. I talked about mental health specialists, but I also talked about school commissioners. Nobody put the school commissioner before the council. So those are hard questions or things that nobody ever asks.
Going back to Santelises, though, do you have faith in her ability to lead the school system?
Well, it's not me having faith, it's calling before the council.
But you can have a say. You're a councilman, you're chair of this committee. Your opinion has a lot of weight.
At this point, because we just had our first hearing, yes. I want to see what happens after these couple of hearings, and then let's see where it goes.
Stokes says he will bring the CEO back again for another hearing, but doesn't know when. Meanwhile, kids continue to go to school and some struggle to learn at grade level, looking to prepare for their next step before the final bell rings on their educational career in Baltimore City. Now, the councilman Robert Stokes says that he does plan to call another hearing, bringing the School Board of Commissioners before his committee to answer questions. He says he wants to learn their role in this problem to see if the commissioners can help these students better prepare for their educational future. When that hearing will be held, he says he doesn't really know yet. We're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, Chris Papps with Project Baltimore joins us now live in studio to weigh in on the hearing tonight.
And Chris, you've been reporting on the failures within some Baltimore City schools for years. What's your takeaway from tonight?
I think one of my main takeaways here is that this meeting was called in response to Project Baltimore's reporting on the 23 schools in Baltimore City that did not have any students who tested proficient in math last year. That was the purpose of this hearing. But yet the parents and the families and the thousands of kids that attend those schools, there was not a direct message to them. Dr. Sonia Santelises and City Council didn't speak directly to those families and to those kids and even to those teachers or administrators. And that's what this whole thing was supposed to be about tonight.
Yeah, we're looking at one of the moms that you just spoke to not long ago. Her son is in one of these 23 schools. Yep. So poor math test scores, not a new problem in the city. Do you think the plan that they are shaping, that they have in place, is enough to turn it around with more math teachers, tutors, other things?
Extended learning days, summer learning, things like that. Well, I mean, I think that if you take that question and you apply it to what we've reported on for years. So in 2017, we looked at the test scores, and we found 13 high schools in Baltimore City in 2017, 13, that had 0 students test proficient in math. This is not a new problem. And what the school system is talking about doing now are very similar things to what they talked about doing 6 years ago when Project Baltimore reported on those 13 schools. So it's kind of, what is new about their approach now, and why do we think it's going to work now when it hasn't worked very well, it appears, in the past? And that was another question that wasn't answered, or asked, I should say, tonight in the hearing.
Chris, there was the opportunity for public comment tonight, but apparently no one signed up to speak. Yeah. Do you have any idea why?
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. So these hearings are about thousands of kids and parents in these 23 schools. It's a lot of people that you would think would have been interested in this. There were no people that signed up for public comment at the hearing and no people that signed up virtually. And that really stuck out to me. So, Kai Mary, you remember last year, City Council held a hearing concerning Augusta Fells about the ghost students and the grade changing at Augusta Fells. And remember when parents called in and they were told they were not allowed to ask the CEO questions? You guys remember that? And people were calling in and they were yelling. And they were like, what is the point of this if I can't even ask my CEO of the school system questions? I think a situation like that would turn a lot of people off and say, you know what, I'm not sure why I'm calling in, why you guys are even doing this. What's the point? And I kind of felt like nobody at home was watching, nobody cared because of the way the public was treated a year ago, last time a hearing like this was held.
That's interesting. We may have to dig into that and ask City Council why they think the reason is.
All right. Chris, thank you. Chris Papps reporting.
Thank you.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust current state and local leadership to fix the problems in Baltimore City Public Schools? 99% say no. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Well, today, Fox 45 News pressed Governor Wes Moore for answers about the Department of Education's decision to remove and redact test results. He tells us he was kept in the dark about the decision, and there needs to be more coordination between his office and the Department of Education.
Do you think those scores should be put back online? Would you like to see an investigation into how this happened into the Department of Education?
Well, I'm a believer in transparency, full stop. I think we need to make sure for something that is so important. It's the reason when I talk about the importance of public education, it's the reason that we made historic investments in public education. It's the reason that we made historic investments when it comes to the Education Scholarship Fund, making sure that low-income students actually have a chance to have higher educational supports. We are going to invest in education. It is the foundation for everything we're trying to get done, but we need to have greater measures of accountability as to how our systems are performing and how our students are best being served.
But how do we do that? How do we remedy that?
Well, that was Governor Wes Moore and being asked questions there. A new Baltimore Banner report raises questions about what the governor might have known and when. Regarding that, what MCAP data is publicly displayed on the state databases. Now, Fox 45 News is looking into communications between MSDE and the governor's office. We'll keep you updated.
And Fox 45 News and Project Baltimore will continue to investigate the problems within the Baltimore City school system. Our commitment to you is to hold city and school leaders accountable. You can find all of Project Baltimore's reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com/Project Baltimore.
Well, big news from the Ravens on draft night, almost upstaging draft night in a way, Mary, right? And it's the top story, Lamar Jackson.
That's right. He is here to stay. Morgan Atzett is in Owings Mills with how it all came together late this afternoon. Morgan.
Oh, that poor first rounder. Take a back seat. This is not your year to get the attention for draft night. That deal with Lamar Jackson, the long-term deal, that's been 2 years in the making and seemed dead just a month ago, and it became public. He requested a trade. Well, it happened, and just hours away from the start of the NFL draft, and it is crystal clear the Ravens are not in the quarterback market this season or years to come. The Ravens and Jackson reached a 5-year extension worth a reported $260 million. Now, once signed, Jackson will become the grossest, largest paid quarterback in NFL history per season. When you break that down with $52 million, he did not get the most guaranteed money. He's third in line for that. But this is something obviously both sides have been working on. And once again, earlier this year, didn't seem like it was going to happen. But a bombshell dropped on draft night, and Lamar Jackson making the own news announcement himself via the Ravens social media pages.
You know, for the last few months, there's been a lot of he say, she say, a lot of nail biting, a lot of head scratching going on. But for the next 5 years, it's a lot of flock going on. Let's go, baby. Let's go, man. Can't wait to get there. Can't wait to be there. Can't wait to light up M&T for the next 5 years, man. Let's get it.
So the Ravens and Jackson are once again happily connected. He is through the 2027 season. We will hear from General Manager Eric DeCosta and head coach John Harbaugh later on tonight after the first-round pick is in. Right now, the Ravens sit at 22nd overall, and the board is stacking up very well if they want to go immediate need with cornerback or wide receiver tonight. Reporting live in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
Coming our way is the next weather maker, and take a look. There it is on the HD radar. Lots of rain through Charlottesville, Roanoke, down toward Danville, Virginia. And here we go. By tomorrow morning, there's our light rain already entering. It becomes heavy during the afternoon. I'm going to let you know how much sticks around through the weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, fighting from across Mondawmin Mall. The video, along with a woman who tried to help break it up. Plus, why there are fears we could see more chaos tomorrow. First, after almost 40 years of service, a recently retired BPD officer sits down exclusively with Fox 45 News why he believes first responders are leaving the department in droves. And at 10:45, a Maryland man goes from victim to suspect after investigators say an attempt to take justice into his own hands ends in murder. How he became one of Maryland's most wanted.
It's an interview you'll only see on Fox 45.
As staffing shortages within the Baltimore City Police Department reach record lows, a recently retired officer is coming forward to voice his concerns.
There's a lot of officers who now feel as though if I go out there and I do my job and I make one little mistake, then I'm going to be punished severely for it.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on why the Insider believes lifelong first responders are leaving the profession in droves.
My hiring date was the 4th of November, 1982.
Is it fair to say things have changed a lot since then?
Things have changed drastically.
Reflecting on nearly 4 decades on Baltimore City's police force.
For the better, for the worse?
For the worse.
Jerry Hensley says despite spending most of his time in narcotics, investigating violent street gangs and arresting drug dealers, physically putting himself in harm's way wasn't the part of his profession that scared him.
The streets are a piece of cake. It's the internal stuff that gets you.
2023 will be BPD's 7th year under its consent decree.
I feel that it's being abused by our police department, especially our internal affairs.
The measure was put in place following a federal investigation that found widespread corruption within the department.
These officers, they're 1930-style gangsters.
Do all of our homework and get on them.
Including the scandal of Baltimore's infamous gun trace task force, a squad of 8 officers convicted for racketeering, robbery, and extortion. Their crimes combined totaling 112 years behind bars.
Well, in knowing what happened with the gun trace task force, you believe in accountability for police officers.
I truly believe in accountability. But my thing is, there's a lot of officers who now feel as though if I go out there and I do my job and I make one little mistake, then I'm going to be punished severely for it.
No room for error.
Nope.
According to Hensley, the consent decree, which was designed to help weed out bad cops, is now handcuffing even the best and brightest from policing properly.
I've seen people suspended for things that they didn't do, or accused of stuff they didn't do. Every little minute thing you're being punished for.
Excessive enforcement, he says he's experienced firsthand. Following an argument with a supervisor, Hensley claims he was slapped with a prolonged suspension for allegedly clocking unworked overtime.
But you worked that overtime.
Yes, I did.
4 years later, his case still wasn't settled.
That's a long time, especially when you have a shortage of officers on the street.
According to BPD, they handed Hensley's case over to the state's attorney's office back in 2018. However, charges were never pursued. So in 2022, they chose to relaunch an internal investigation, after which the department claims Hensley was, quote, served notice of the charges and the recommended discipline. He opted to retire prior to his trial board, a decision Hensley says he made due to the department's lack of respect for his decades of service. And he says he's not alone.
There's a huge exodus of police officers.
Currently, 81 Baltimore City officers have their policing powers suspended. In addition to that, the department is down 500 officers, 100 officers short from just last year. Higher salaries, better benefits, and sign-on bonuses have been used to combat the crisis, but Hensley says the support officers need isn't financial.
I feel like our department is saying that if there's an allegation made, it's corruption, instead of investigating properly.
He says to keep officers on the streets and our city safe, it's up to law enforcement leaders like Commissioner Michael Harrison to be slower to condemn and quicker to congratulate the hard work of his rank and file.
Instead of patting your people on the back and telling them a good job, all he's doing is knocking people down and trying to enforce this consent decree beyond belief, and they're doing it in the wrong way.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, concerns the department is enforcing the city's consent decree to a fault are also being echoed by the police union. Baltimore City's FOP president Mike Mancuso sending Fox 45 News a statement that reads in part, mistakes are not tolerated and a large percentage of officers find themselves charged with a violation, which is actually an error or a mistake. Again, feeding the consent decree and allowing the machine it created to say, look what we are doing. It's all nonsense and unproductive in moving the BPD forward.
They got the little boy on the ground over there and just stomped him.
Chaos on Mondawmin Mall today as fights break out among a rowdy crowd, according to police. Coming up at 10:30, witnesses describe what they saw and why there's concern it could happen again.
The country's still very divided over the best way to care for transgender children. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington with why the DOJ is now entering the fight.
And our next weather maker moving in with potential rain as early as tomorrow morning's commute. We're tracking it hour by hour in the forecast. Take a look. It starts with clouds, but by about 7, 8 a.m., we're starting to see the rain come down and could have some heavy rain for tomorrow. Get your rain slickers ready and maybe even chances of showers and storms for Saturday and also Sunday. I'm going to break down the timing in my Weather Authority forecast.
We're taking a live look right now from the Ravens draft party as the team gets ready to make its pick tonight. The Ravens have 5 draft picks overall. Just one of them will come tonight in the 22nd round. That comes after 21 and before 23. Sports Unlimited Morgan Hansen and Rocco DeSangro are keeping a close eye on the draft, as we'll let you know as soon as the Ravens make their pick. We know what they did with Lamar, though, Mary, don't we?
We do know that.
In the state of Montana, the fight over how to care for transgender children is reaching a boiling point.
The law being considered in Montana would ban puberty blockers and transition surgeries for minors, and is the latest battle over this issue being played out around the nation.
National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
The latest transgender fight taking over Helena, Montana.
If you vote yes on this bill, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
We do know that there is help out there for them. However, help does not come out in the form of medically transitioning our youth, because that is permanent.
Montana looking to join at least 10 other states in banning gender-related medical treatment for minors.
I think that the reason that there's so much pushback is we are seeing lives destroyed, thousands of lives destroyed.
The ban's already sparking lawsuits. Earlier this month, the ACLU sued Indiana for their new ban. In Florida, families of trans youth suing the state. The Department of Justice now entering the fight, filing a lawsuit in Tennessee challenging their state's ban. DOJ arguing the law violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee responding to the suit with a tweet writing, quote, "This is federal overreach at its worst," vowing to push back. President Biden and his administration reaffirming support of trans minors.
But across the country of late from some of our friends on the extreme right, LBT students and teachers are under attack from hateful laws.
The American Pediatric Association among those who support giving minors what they call gender-affirming care, arguing withholding care increases the risk of suicide. Minnesota attempting to counter these bans by passing a bill last week establishing the state as a trans refuge for kids denied gender care elsewhere. Some Republican-led states looking to pass even more restrictive bans. A bill introduced in Oklahoma would ban anyone under the age of 26 from receiving transgender medical care. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think minors should be allowed to have sex change operations without parental consent? Scan the QR code on your screen to weigh in.
A rowdy crowd at Mondawmin Mall today. Witnesses tell us fights broke out. At one point, an officer was punched in the face. A look at the mayhem today and why there could be more chaos tomorrow, right after the break.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where Hunter Biden's attorneys have now wrapped up a meeting at the Justice Department. What other investigations are now revealing?
We are following three big stories at 10:30.
Hunter Biden's lawyers have now wrapped up a meeting at the Justice Department. DOJ investigations into the president's son have been going on for some 5 years. What we know about those probes.
Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises appeared before a city council committee tonight to answer questions about troubling math test scores. What came of that hearing?
Mayhem at Mondawmin Mall today. A witness shares this video with FOX45 News, sharing a rowdy crowd of young people.
I seen a whole bunch of kids just fighting, a whole bunch of them.
Well, witnesses say at one point a police officer was actually punched in the face, and it comes as a post is circulating on social media encouraging people to gather and, quote, pop off. It means get wild at Mondawmin Mall tomorrow. Fox 45's Keith Andrews joins us live with more of the chaos. And Keith, this is eerily similar to you and I talking live on the anniversary of Freddie Gray's death.
Absolutely, Kai. Now, we're live outside of Mondawmin Mall, where many of those people, many of those young people met here today before the brawl. And tonight, what could happen tomorrow? At Liberty Heights Avenue, near Woodbrook Avenue, chaos at the corner.
I seen a whole bunch of kids just fighting, a whole bunch of them.
Dozens of juveniles gathered in a group. Fights break out. The disorder caught on cell phone video. Punches are thrown. Juveniles attacking juveniles. Look closely. A Baltimore City police officer seen in the middle of the crowd trying to break it up. We're told later a teen punched the officer in the face.
I see this young lady on the ground being stomped.
Miss Tracy, on her way home, says she stopped her car when she saw a girl in distress and a boy under attack.
They got the little boy on the ground over there and just stomped him. For what reason? He's like, no. And they just kept stomping him and stomping him and stomping him.
The mayhem happening near Mondawmin Mall, where an Instagram account is calling for a Mondawmin link-up this Friday. The post urging participants to show up at the mall, have fun, bring all the drama, and uses an expletive regarding the police. The social media image gives a start time of 3 p.m. on Friday, suggesting the flash mob gathering will end whenever they start shooting.
Have fun, bring all the drama.
Sheila Pompey and Kimberly Davis at the bus stop at Mondawmin, angered by the post.
It's crazy. Some ignorant, foolish person didn't have anything to do. They just trying to start some more trouble.
Why? What purpose is that? What is it going to prove?
The social media post is strikingly similar to one that sparked a series of riots in the city after Freddie Gray's death in police custody in 2015. That post called for a purge at Mondawmin Mall at 3 p.m. April 27th, 8 years ago today.
It's crazy. We need to do something.
Well, we did reach out to Baltimore City Police. A spokesman told me that the department and their law partners are aware of that social media post. They say they're ready to stop any misconduct. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. The last two members of a Baltimore drug trafficking organization, according to prosecutors, have been sentenced. Experts are calling it a small battle won in the war on the drug trade in Baltimore City. This is the latest drug trafficking group the U.S. Attorney's Office has helped to take down recently. But there are still more operating in the city. Former Baltimore Police Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson says the police department doesn't have the manpower to get rid of the problem.
Even when you take people off, meaning arrest offenders and incarcerate offenders, there are many more that are willing to step in their shoes. If you're making it harder to prosecute young people, if you're if you have a staffing problem in your police department, if you're not trying to incarcerate drug dealers, all of these things are going to contribute to an atmosphere that we have in Baltimore where getting involved in the drug trade is thought of as having very little risk.
Many law enforcement experts Fox 45 News spoke with, including Johnson, consider these drug trafficking organizations gangs, but city leaders don't use that term. A spokesperson with the police department says that's because they go by the federal definition of a gang.
In Annapolis, the governor's office is looking to help curb stop snitching culture in Baltimore and beyond by making a change to the victim relocation program. Right now, the state policy requires an arrest to be made before relocation. The governor's office wants to change that so a witness can be moved to safety right after a crime happens if necessary. Former Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson also weighed in on that today, saying he believes the change could be a step in the right direction when it comes to the crime fight.
I think there's a legitimate concern in the community about coming forward with information. Almost anything that can be done to make people either be more incentivized or feel better protected is a step in the right direction.
The policy change would also open up relocation to witnesses of all crimes, not just homicides, to encourage people to come forward.
A Baltimore City Council committee held a hearing. It was billed as an opportunity for council members to question the school system CEO about a recent Project Baltimore report revealing 23 schools where no students among those tested are proficient in math. While the council did ask some questions about math scores, most of their near 2-hour hearing was spent on other issues like summer programming, and the effects of segregation. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost questioned the committee chairman, Councilman Robert Stokes.
The hard questions will be asked, but I want to see some data.
We didn't really hear a lot of hard questions.
Well, I talked about the hiring of tutors. I talked about mental health specialists, but I also talked about school commissioners. Nobody put the school commissioner before the council. So those are hard questions or things that nobody ever asks.
Going back to Santelises, though, do you have faith in her ability to lead the school system?
Well, it's not me having faith, it's calling before the council.
But you can have a say. You're a councilman, you're chair of this committee. Your opinion has a lot of weight.
At this point, because we just had our first hearing, yes. I want to see what happens after these couple of hearings, and then let's see where it goes.
Dr. Santelises talked about how schools across the nation are struggling when it comes to math scores, and Baltimore is part of a bigger problem. We pressed her about her message to families in poor-performing schools.
Do you think that the parents of these kids in these 23 schools care that other students are failing when their students are the ones that are struggling to succeed? What do you say to families who are dealing with this, and especially when you say that you knew this was going to happen?
Well, we knew, Mackenzie, that the math was a challenging area. One of the things that we've said to parents is we have doubled down on tutoring, on after-school opportunities.
Well, you can find more on tonight's hearing on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Taking a look now at the Fox Box, top left, Congressman Jamie Raskin from Maryland, battling cancer, says he has received a preliminary diagnosis of being in remission after finishing chemotherapy. Great news for him.
On the top right, the president and White House staff facing criticism over media cheat sheets. Photos circulating on social media show a card with an LA Times reporter's headshot, name and written questions. The White House claims it's normal to be briefed on the reporters. The paper says questions were not submitted to the White House.
Bottom left, embarrassment for Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, who was tricked into an extended phone call with Russian pranksters. In the January call, he thought he was talking to Ukraine's president while discussing possibilities of a recession. The Fed is not saying what's being done to prevent a repeat and if there are security lapses at the central bank.
On the bottom right, a 9% drop in confidence of an ability to retire comfortably is the biggest since the 2008 financial crisis in America. The Employee Benefit Research Institute's data shows confidence has fallen to 64% this year. Neither the Department of Justice nor lawyers for President Biden's son, Hunter, have revealed what happened at a meeting they had this week.
It came at the request of lawyers since the DOJ investigation has been going on for about 5 years, centering on potential tax evasion and a charge for making a false statement about buying a gun.
Christine Frizzell brings us up to speed with multiple probes surrounding the president's son.
And my youngest son, Hunter Biden, stand up, guys. I'm proud of you.
Hunter Biden back in the spotlight, traveling with his father to Ireland, even appearing earlier this week at the White House Easter egg roll. But his actions when his father was vice president remain central to Republicans, appearing to make extensive headway in their investigation into his business deals with Chinese companies, some tied to the Chinese Communist Party. Research also laid out in detail by author Peter Schweitzer.
It's very, very clear that they were selling access. They were selling the Biden name. In order to collect the kind of money they were collecting, they had to deliver on that. And Joe Biden had to be a participant.
Fox News now reporting White House logs show Hunter Biden's business partners and assistants visited the White House 80 times while Joe Biden was serving as vice president. And while other banks have blocked access, the Chinese-linked bank Cathay Bank has just released Hunter Biden's bank records to House Republicans.
What's concerning to us is there any sort of blackmail opportunity for China against the United States because of those close working relationships?
In a statement, a Cathay Bank spokesperson said it's a NASDAQ-listed U.S. financial institution and intends to cooperate with the committee and is neither owned nor affiliated with the Chinese government. President Biden, meanwhile, has maintained for years he was not involved in any way.
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it.
Hunter Biden himself now fighting back, suing the Delaware-based computer repairman he says shared private information from his laptop with the public. As the Justice Department's investigation into Hunter Biden continues in private, House Republicans say they want to be more transparent about what they're learning, with new information being released just about every week here on Capitol Hill. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Investigators say one man's attempt to take justice into